Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Learn with Sir Glenn, and for this video we're going to discuss the end behavior of the graph of polynomial function. So let's go! Before we proceed with our lesson, let's have a review first. So complete the table below. So let's have polynomial function f of x equals 5x cubed minus 2x squared plus 4x minus 5. Then we're going to get the leading term or the first term when the polynomial is arranged in descending power of x. Since the polynomial is already arranged in descending power of x, the leading term is 5x cubed. Then we also have to get the degree, the highest exponent of x in the polynomial function. So for this one, the highest exponent is 3. Then the leading coefficient, which is the numerical coefficient of the leading term. So since the leading term is 5x cubed, the numerical coefficient is 5. Therefore, the leading coefficient is 5. Then the sign of the leading coefficient is either positive or negative. So for this one, it is positive. So let's have another example. So polynomial function f of x equals 3x plus 4x squared minus 3x raised to 5 minus 4. So the leading term is the first term when the polynomial is arranged in descending power of x. So I suggest you arrange this one first, descending power of x. Then we will have the leading term is negative 3x raised to 5. Then the degree is equal to 5. Leading coefficient is negative 3, so the sign of the leading coefficient is negative. Then let's have the next one. F of x equals 5 minus 3x squared minus 4x minus 5x raised to 4. And rearrange the terms first, and the leading term will become negative 5x raised to 4. The degree is 4. The leading coefficient is negative 5 and the sign is negative. Let's have another one. F of x is equal to x squared times x plus 1 times x minus 2. So since the polynomial function is in the factor form, if you want to get the leading term, you just simply multiply the leading terms of your factors. So that's why we will have x raised to 4 multiplying x squared times x times x. So the degree is 4, the leading coefficient is 1, then the sign of the leading coefficient is positive. Then let's have the last one. So let's have f of x equals 2x minus 1 times 3x minus 1 times x plus 1. So just like what we did on the fourth example, we're just going to multiply first the first terms of our factors. So multiplying 2x times 3x times x will give us 6x cubed. So the degree is 3. Then the leading coefficient is 6 and the sign of the leading coefficient is positive. So what is end behavior of the graph of polynomial function? So the end behavior of the graph of polynomial function describes the trend of the graph if we look at the right end of the graph as it approaches the positive infinity of x-axis and the left end of the graph as it approaches the negative infinity of x-axis. The end behavior of the graph can be rising or falling. The end behavior is important if you want to sketch the graph of polynomial function. So actually, before sketching a graph of polynomial function, you have to determine first the end behavior of the graph of the polynomial functions so that you will know where to start your graph, where to end your graph. So how to determine the end behavior of the graph of polynomial function without graphing, since this is the first step if you want to sketch the graph of a polynomial function. So let's have steps in determining the end behavior of the graph of polynomial function. First, you have to determine the degree and the sign of the leading coefficient of the given polynomial function, then use the following cases. So case number 1, if the degree is odd and the sign of the leading coefficient is positive, then the graph falls to the left and rises to the right. So we will have falls to the left and rises to the right. Then case number 2, if the degree is odd and the sign of the leading coefficient is negative, then the graph rises to the left and falls to the right. So we will have rise to the left and falls to the right. Case number 3, if the degree is even and the sign of the leading coefficient is positive, the graph rises to the left and to the right. We will have the graph rises on the left and also on the right. Case number 4, if the degree is even and the sign of the leading coefficient is negative, then the graph falls to the left and to the right. So we will have falls to the left and falls to the right. So now let's use this step in determining the end behavior of the graph of polynomial function without graphing the polynomial. So let's have polynomial function 5x cubed minus 2x squared plus 4x minus 5. So according to the step, first you have to determine the degree, which is for this one, 3, which is an odd number. Since it is an odd number, it will fall under case number 1 or case number 2. So after this, we're going to determine the leading coefficient, which is 5 on our example. Then we check the sign of the leading coefficient, which is positive. So since it is positive and the degree is odd number, then this one is under case number 1. And since it is in the case number 1, the end behavior will be the graph falls to the left and rises to the right. So let's have another example. So let's have f of x is equal to negative 3x raised to 5 plus 3x plus 4x squared minus 4. So you may rearrange first the term so that it will be arranged in descending power of x. Then after that, you can now determine the degree. And the degree of this is 5, which is also an odd number. So therefore, it's under case number 1 or case number 2. Then we check the leading coefficient, which is negative 3. And obviously, the sign is negative. So since it is negative and the degree is odd number, so this is under case number 2. And the behavior will be the graph rises to the left and falls to the right. Let's have another one. So f of x equals 5 minus 3x squared minus 4x minus 5x raised to 4. So again, you may rearrange first the terms to descending power of x. Then you can now determine the degree, which is 4, which is an even number. So since it is even number, it will fall under case number 3 or case number 4. So you look for the leading coefficient, which is negative 5. So the sign is negative. So since it is negative and the degree is even number, then we will have it in case number 4. And the behavior will be the graph falls to the left and to the right. So let's have the fourth one. So f of x equals x squared times x plus 1 times x minus 2. So before you can determine the degree, you may multiply first the first terms of your factors since the given polynomial is in the factor form. So we will have x squared times x is x raised to 4. So therefore the degree is 4, which is an even number. Then the leading coefficient is 1 and the sign is positive. Since the sign is positive and the degree is 4, which is even, then this one is under case number 3. The end behavior will be the graph rises to the left and to the right. So the graph rises to the left and to the right. Let's have the last one. So f of x equals 2x minus 1 times 3x minus 1 times x plus 1. So since the given is in the factor form, you may get the degree by multiplying first the first terms of your factors. So we will have 2x times 3x times x, which will give us 6x cubed. So therefore, the degree is 3, which is odd number. And the leading coefficient is 6, which is a positive number. So since this is odd number for the degree and the sign of the leading coefficient is positive, then this is case number 1. So in case number 1, the end behavior of the graph is the graph falls to the left and rises to the right. So let's have another example. So determine the end behavior of the graph of f of x equals 4x raised to 4 minus 5x cubed minus x squared plus 12. So again, just simply have to determine the degree, which is on this example 4, which is an even number. Since this is even, then it will fall under case number 3 or case number 4. So to determine which case are you going to have, you have to determine the sign of the leading coefficient, which is positive for this one. So the degree is even and the sign of the leading coefficient is positive, then this one will have case number 3. And on the case number 3, the end behavior is the graph rises to the left and to the right.
Another one.
Okay, so let's have another one. To determine the end behavior of the graph of f of x equals 3x plus 4x squared minus 5 minus 6x cubed. So you may rearrange first the terms in descending power of x. So you will have f of x equals negative 6x cubed plus 4x squared plus 3x minus 5. then you have to determine the degree, which is 3, and 3 is an odd number, so since it is odd number, it will fall under case number 1 or case number 2. To determine which case are you going to have, you have to identify the sign of the leading coefficient, which is for this one, a negative number. So since it is odd for the degree and a sign of negative for the leading coefficient, then it is under case number 2. And the behavior is the graph rises to the left and falls to the right.
Nice.
So that's it. Thank you for watching and hope you have learned something from this video.